My life is nothing but luxury. I live how I want, buy whatever I want, and do whatever I want, all thanks to my family. Hi everyone, I'm Kevin and I'm super rich. My dad owns the biggest oil company in the country. He inherited this business from his father. When he took over the business, everything was already in place, and it didn't take much effort. Just management and control. All stuff that affected my father's attitude to money. He did not start the family business from scratch and didn't really have any problems. He received it right away and made the business grow. He treated money accordingly, as easy to come and easy to spend. The same attitude to capital was with my mom and me. All we did was enjoy the awesome life. Our family lived in an expensive mansion. We had servants, guards, and personal drivers. Our meals were cooked by a well-known chef in town, and pastries were delivered to our table on a special flight from France. Can you believe that? Can you imagine the scale of my family's wealth? I confess, honestly, I behaved arrogantly towards others. My parents used to say that money was given only to those who worked well, and all the people who served us were just lazy, since they could not earn their own money for an oil company. For many years I lived with this attitude and believed that our wealth was only the merit of my father and his hard work. But everything changed on the day I was born. For my 16th birthday, my father had booked an entire restaurant. There were invited stars, prominent people, my father's business partners and my friends, the same children of rich parents. The whole hall was decorated in my favorite nautical style ships, birds, submarines, all the stuff that I liked. The same 5-story cake with the captain's figure on every top. I loved the water and everything to do with the sea, the ocean, so the theme of the evening was no problem. The evening was in full swing. A famous DJ was playing, and I decided to walk outside to get some fresh air. As I came out of the restaurant, I took a deep breath and looked around. There was a girl standing not far from the entrance and handing out flyers. Would you mind stepping back and handing your advertisements somewhere else? Hello? The girl didn't raise an eyebrow. Through her teeth, she said that no one cares about the guests of the institution, and that I have no right to forbid her anything, since the street is a public space and everyone can do there what they like. I was so angered by her words. Who is she to tell me? I'm the richest teenager. What is she gonna do about it? Standing, handing out some papers, earning tiny cash, I gestured to the security guard and told him to help this girl move. She yelled and cursed, but the guard picked her up like a feather and put her somewhere else. It felt so funny. I just felt so powerful. As the evening grew to a close, my father brought me a brand new car as a birthday present, and I waved to everyone and decided to try it out on the road. I was driving through the city at night and felt like the happiest man alive. I turned on the music at full volume, sang the songs, and moved to the beat and pressed the gas. I wanted to go faster and faster. Suddenly, a bright light blinded my eyes, and I closed my eyes and flew into the abyss. When I opened my eyes, I looked around. White walls, smell of medicine, IV next to me. My whole body hurt terribly and I couldn't move. The very thought of not being able to move made me very afraid. What had happened? What happened to me? The doctor came into the room, and when he saw me wake up, he encouraged me by saying that I was born with my shirt on and that I was lucky to be alive. There's nothing left of the car, but the main thing is that you're alive. We fought for you for 3 whole days. Now you have a long rehabilitation. Be patient. The worst is over. I could hardly thank the doctor. I was in no mood at all and I was on a thread. The tears were menacingly flowing down my cheeks. Couldn't even wipe them. My body did not listen to me. All I could do was talk. A couple of days later, I was discharged from the hospital. Dad got the best doctors, leading clinics in the world. But they all said one thing. You need a complete recovery, and the only thing that you can do is proceed with an operation. The fact that I had some kind of joint that could not be operated on and needed time to partially heal. What about me? I only had to wait. At first, my mom and dad sat by my bedside, telling me stuff, reading to me, and then the servants took their place. Then it came to our security guard. But I could not bear being confined to a bed and unable to go out and take a walk by myself. Every day it was getting harder and harder, and I felt like I was getting depressed. One day, my mom offered to hire me a nurse. Mom, what? A nurse? That's like a babysitter. That's only for children. I was outraged. I'm not 90 years old to be looked after by a nurse. But Mom didn't even listen. She contacted the agency, and next day, a doorbell rang. On the doorstep was the same girl that I met on my birthday. Yeah, the one who was handing out the flyers. As soon as she showed up in my room, I was embarrassed. I had made such a mockery of her, put myself above and beyond, and now what? When she saw me, she froze for a moment. There was a whole range of emotions in her eyes, from contempt to pity. She seemed to gloat over me at first, but afterward, she felt kind of sorry for me. The girl went to the headboard and silently adjusted my pillow. She silently fed me. Then she began to read me some work. At this point, I could not keep silent. Blushing and asked for forgiveness for what I'd done. "You happy?" she asked, ignoring my forgiveness. I don't know right now," I answered honestly. If she had asked me a few days ago, I would have said that I was the happiest man in the world. But after that accident, I realized that the greatest happiness is to live. No money or cars or expensive watches and phones can replace this feeling. I introduced myself, and her name was Nicole. Turns out, she grew up without parents and her only support is her grandmother. Nicole handed out flyers, moonlighted as a nurse, and sometimes walked dogs for money. Despite her difficult life, she was incredibly optimistic and loved life in all its manifestations. She helped me see the colors of life again. We talked about different things every day. She accompanied me to physical therapy and massages and watched me take small steps towards recovery. Nicole was the only one, after my parents, who sincerely wished me well. My old friends didn't even visit me, only sarcastically discussing how their 16-year-old friend was being babysat by a flyer promoter. As time went on, it was time to get tested and have a full checkup. If all went according to plan, they would take me to the surgery. I was looking forward to that day. The doctor said that the answer would be ready in a couple of days. I lay on my bed, mentally picturing how they would operate on me, and I would walk again, live, and finally enjoy my life again. I was distracted by my thoughts by Nicole. She stood sadly at the door and said that she had come to say goodbye, that I was on my way to recovery and she was sure everything would be okay. And now she had to go. Her work was done. "I was going to fire you anyway. You're too good for this job. Why should I need a babysitter when I could have such a good, bright friend?" Nicole heard this and cried. She came up to me and said that she really hoped I would get well, and the first thing I would do to help her was help her with her flyers. We laughed and the good news came from the doctor. I can have the operation and there are no incidents. What did I understand from this whole thing? Whatever your problems life throws at you, there's always a person who will support you in the most difficult situation. The most important thing is to just find that person out there. If you liked the video, then please leave a like and comment down below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
Hello everyone, my name is Tom. I come from a small town in America. I know that this channel has a lot of unique stories, and now I'd like to share mine with you. Getting ahead of myself here, but I want to tell you that I am, in fact, much older than most of you. I'll bet you'll never guess how old I really am. Want to know the truth? So recently I turned 15, but in fact I'm already 30. My mom told me my story. She decided to reveal the whole truth on my birthday, and I'm very grateful to her for that. First, I'll tell you a little bit more about my family. I have a father. His name is Gerald. He works as a specialist in a company that produces software for smartphones. And from my mom is Louise. She works as a seamstress. When my parents met, they were 20 years old. They dated for a while, and then my dad finally proposed to my mom. Back then, they lived very poorly. Honestly, sometimes there was not enough money for food. But Dad still did not give up. While my mom worked as a seamstress at home, she sewed people's orders. My father took programming classes. It was difficult, but my mom believed in him and helped pay for his studies. There was no talk about a child yet. Well, you know, it was tough times. After some time, they got really lucky, and the company that provided my dad's classes hired him. It was a special day. They were very happy because the job was well paid. First things first, when the salary was stable, they saved up the money for a house. A few years later, they managed to buy a small apartment in the city, just like one my mom dreamed of. She made herself a separate workshop there and continued to earn money. And then Dad suggested that Mom should have a baby. They approached the issue seriously, underwent a medical exam, and did a bunch of tests, but have not succeeded. My mom was very upset, but they did not give up. Several more years passed like that, and then some more. Over time, they got everything they dreamed of before. Even the child's room was completely equipped, but there was still no child. Eventually, my mom was diagnosed with a terrible thing, that they would not be able to have children. But as you know, medicine does not stand still. Everything is developing. And a colleague of my dad's work suggested doing IVF, which means artificial insemination. You've probably heard of this. So my parents went to a specific clinic for that stuff and began to prepare my mother. They were told that they could choose from the available frozen embryos which suited them. Each frozen embryo was accompanied by a history of the parents, where they were from, their biography, medical information. Mom and Dad didn't care what the baby would be. All they said was just one thing, so that the child was not too tall, because my mom was very short. And then the doctor told them about the frozen embryo, which has been stored in a state for 15 years. Surprisingly, it turns out that you can be alive you can live for a long time while in such form. And there are even embryos that are stored for even longer periods and nothing happens to them. Mom and Dad were very happy about this opportunity. Their procedure was not cheap, but they had the money. Mom came to the clinic and on the appointed day, and they performed the procedure. And hooray! Mom got pregnant with me. Her entire pregnancy went well despite her age. She gave birth to me, and like you might have guessed, I have nothing in common with my parents. Yeah, it happens. Can you imagine? I was born 15 years ago, and it was a big event in our family. I grew up like an ordinary child and did not even suspect anything until I was 15. On this day, my parents, as usual, woke up before me and started preparing for my birthday. There was chaos in the house. My mom was calling guests and invited them to our house for a party. I was opening presents and waiting for my cake. Suddenly, a friend called my mother and asked to meet her at the station. Aunt Anna came all the way here for me. Mom asked me to pay for the cake delivery and told me to take the money from a drawer in the bedroom. When the delivery guy arrived, I ran into the room for the money, and while I was pulling out the wallet, some blue folder fell out from it. I was never interested in pieces of paper, but this folder attracted me because my name was written on it. I paid the guy, took the cake and went back into the bedroom, took the folder into my hands and opened it. There were all the medical tests of my parents, and there was a document where the day of the procedure was described, with my mom's photo attached as well. I didn't understand what all of this meant, and then my mother came back. While the friend of hers was setting the table, I went up to my mom and showed her that folder. I asked what it meant and saw my mom's face change. She said that she wanted to tell me about this later because she didn't know how I would react. She sat me down and told me the whole story. The first question that I asked was, "So, you're not my actual parents?" Tears went down my mom's face. She was silent and looked at me. Honestly, it was painful to hear. I was feeling conflicted about it, like I was abandoned. My mood was ruined immediately. I didn't want to talk to anyone, and I went into my room. The whole birthday, I sat in my room and did not even go out to see the guests. When my parents saw everyone off, they came to talk to me. They tried to talk to me, but I just didn't want to. I needed to digest the information for a while. Then, my father decided to show me how it all actually worked. The next day, he didn't go to work. Him and Mom took my hand and we went to that very clinic where I lived for 15 years before I was born. First things first, I was introduced to the doctor. Turns out that they continued talking for all that time. The doctor's name was Ria. She was old now, but she greeted me like her own son. Dr. Ria gave me special covers and led me into the area where no one would normally enter. But they made an exception for me. I saw something unusual there. It looked like refrigerators. The embryos were kept in there, and they were turned into humans. I was amazed at how complicated everything was. I asked the doctor why people abandoned their own children like that, but the doctor replied that this was not leaving a child, but giving an opportunity to people to become parents who cannot have their own children, like my parents. Dr. Ria showed me around some more, and all this time my parents were waiting for me in the hallway. Mom was noticeably nervous, but the doctor was in no hurry. She told me everything and showed me photos of families who became parents thanks to her. She carries an album with her. There was also a photo of my parents with me. This photo was taken on the day I was born. Mom and Dad were so happy. They both held me and smiled. Mom looked at me with such a loving eyes, and then I noticed that the look in her eyes hadn't changed at all over the years. I got out of there half an hour later, silently got into the car, and we drove home. I analyzed things back in my room and realized that I was actually very lucky, because I might have been not born at all. I would have been lying there in a cold refrigerator for another 15 years, and who knows, maybe I would get different parents. For example, those who wouldn't throw parties every year on my birthday, who wouldn't kiss me every night before bed, who wouldn't bring me goodies after work. All I wanted that moment was to go up to my parents and say how much I loved them. This is what I did. Mom cried for a long time, and she said that she was afraid that I would hate them. But I had no reason to do it. I'm grateful for everything to her and my dad because I'm so happy. I'm a happy teenager in a wonderful family. Have you guys had anything like that happen in your life? And how would you react if you were in my shoes? Write your opinion in the comments. If you like the story, then press the thumbs up and leave us some comments. Don't forget to subscribe.